Good evening. Hope you guys are doing good. Made it to the top of the week. So, welcome back. If you have not seen us since last week, hopefully, you guys' weekend was pretty good. Did some positive things over the weekend. Didn't go buy a bunch of stuff because I know you guys are used to buying things. So, I know the weekends are used to getting Amazon orders and all that fun stuff. But tonight, we are going to discuss something that it's kind of about what it is that you do once you actually get here, because I talked to my boy today and I realized that so many people are essentially in this scenario. And this scenario is that thinking that once they move abroad, that's it. That is all they have to do is move abroad. And all of the things that is plaguing them in America could possibly just stop. Now, I'll tell you now, most of you guys were like, nah, that's not true. And yeah, that's definitely not true at all. But I think you guys have to have a different set of thought process when it comes to what happens when you guys do get the opportunity to move abroad. Because if this is your first time moving abroad, you probably have been in a scenario where once you go on a vacation and you get to, I don't know, 5 days, 6 days, and by the time you start to get comfortable in your new location, it's about time to go. However, when you move abroad, it's not necessarily time to go after 6 days, even 2 weeks. Most of us in America aren't taking what we see our counterparts in other places taking when it comes to holidays. So I tell most people that Americans, they get 5 days, 4 nights. That is usually their sweet spot. Sometimes they may go 7 days, 8 days, maybe. Even if they get a 10-day trip in a year, it's not often that they're doing much more than that and much more than one time, 10 days at a one time, never mind multiple times. But it's definitely not a scenario where if you're used to traveling, that you're used to spending a month in one location, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So when you get into brushing off that expectation that, I'm going back to the United States soon, or brushing off the fact that, well, whatever it is I don't like here, it's fine because I'm going back home. Well, a lot of you guys are in a position to want to leave the United States. And because you guys are leaving in a position where it's not like, I'm leaving and everything is okay. A lot of you guys are leaving because of financial reasons, the food quality, what goes on in America doesn't seem like it should be normalized, yet here we are. It's a number of reasons why you may be looking to go, but once you do go about leaving, you run into a scenario where you got to get comfortable. And how do you get uncomfortable when so many of you, based off of the conversations that I'm having, the questions that I get answered, aren't looking at this in the scenario that you would look at a normal move? So you're running into places where you may not speak the language. Other things that are going to be no matter where you go, even if they speak English, the culture. The culture is not the same. Even if you go to somewhere like Canada, which is a part of North America, the culture of Canada is not the same as America. So, what you expect, the things that you are used to, those things aren't commonplace in many and probably all of the places that you're going to be looking to go. So, you're going to have this thing. It's a shock moment. It's a culture shock moment, and it can come at you in a lot of different ways. And being able to reflect after, 3 years being gone, and in a scenario where now, when embracing new culture, I look at it completely different than when it was that I first left the United States, because it's so much more nuanced than I actually thought. Things that I thought would be, I want to say a negative, but I would think would be a challenge. And you might say, well, things are culturally different there. So this is going to be a challenge. But we're not faced with thinking that some of the cultural differences may actually be a benefit to us. So you're going to have shock from both ends of, well, I'm used to this in the United States. Yet I have come here, come to a new location, and things are different in a way where I wasn't expecting it to. Now, when I tell you these things, I tell people these things that we're used to in the United States, how housing is set up. These things are different. Somebody in different places around the world, we're used to going outside and coming back inside and leaving our shoes on. Personally, I think America or no America, taking whatever the heck is on the ground outside and bringing it in and walking it around your house, I think that's outrageous. However, these are cultural norms that if you aren't privy to them, you may be stepping or impeding on what it is that someone's expectations are because of where you are. So when we talk about moving abroad, I tell people the research that you have to do, because I'm not one of the people that just says, well, do your research. You just need to do your research. And it's like, well, where do these people start? Where do they have the foundation of starting? So it's like when you talk about doing your research, I tell these people you actually have to look into a scenario where your research comes down to where you're looking, understanding what that culture actually does without you in it. Because so many of you are impressed by the viral videos that you see on TikTok and still don't understand the culture that you seem to want to be a part of. I saw something today that it said the top consumed cultures in the United States. And you guys know who number one was. But I was surprised at first to see what the other ones were. Japanese culture. I said, Japanese culture. So yeah, anime and Nintendo and video games and different things of that nature. And I said, that's number two. And yes, black American culture was number one. But it's just like the differences between number one and number two are miles in comparison. And that's just in America. Never mind going to these other places and thinking that you are going to understand the cultural norms. In Colombia, it is a cultural norm to say, hello, how are you? And wait for somebody to respond. Or at least, hello, how are you? And then let me ask you for what it is that I need. In the United States, we wouldn't think it was wrong to go to someone and say, hey, what's up, man? I need this by 5. Can you get it to me? Hello, how are you doing? You all right? Good. Now, what do you need by 5? Most people will say, yeah, I guess I could have did that. My bad. I'll back up. Because we're so used to just jumping into it. Yeah, you could do that overseas and come off completely ignorant. Not because you are, but because you don't know. So when I tell people to do the research, okay, you want to go to Colombia. Well, what part do you want to go to? Because they use words and use certain words in a way in Medellin that they don't in Cartagena. It's just the facts of the matter, just the same way that you have language barriers and differences between New York and Mississippi. Why would you not think elsewhere? But you know that in some things, in some places in the South, you say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am to elders. Well, these are the same cultural norms and cultural differences and things that you have to adjust to when moving abroad. Yet so many of us and so many of you guys, excuse me, are looking to move and not realizing that you're going to have to fit into that. I was talking to a buddy of mine today, and he said, bro, you're in Mexico right now. Got to go check out this other spot. And you're going back to Colombia. Like, I'm gonna just go where you gonna go. I'm like, well, you have two. You got different lifestyle to me. You have 3 kids, 2 4-year-olds, a 9-year-old, a wife. Those things are not the same thing that I have. So I might be able to work and not go out till 6, but you might not be able to do that with young children. So many people are moving to Mexico, never mind the temperature and never mind the local customs of, well, you're not going to see a bunch of kids playing outside during the day. I know in Cartagena, you go to outside at 8 p.m., the playground is packed. You try to do that at 2 p.m., it's going to be nobody in there. Now, these things can get way nuanced further down from playgrounds and different things of that nature. But the cultural aspect of your move abroad needs to be taken as seriously as your reason for leaving. Because you, no matter what you think, are not about to be put into America Junior. It's a new culture. One of the things that it was the most difficult for me coming from, Philadelphia, and South Florida is a microcosm of Florida, because I tell people South Florida is like its own spot, then you got the rest of Florida. And coming from a Northeastern environment, I'm used to things being at a certain pace. So when things aren't at a certain pace, things tend to get a little frustrating. You expect things to be done in a timely manner. Yet it is because of what we have to do, because of the stress and the pressures that we are under, why things need to be done post haste as quickly as possible in the United States. Even if you go from somewhere as fast paced as New York to somewhere slower paced like the Deep South, it's still going faster than some places around the world. But you guys don't know that. So the initial shock of expecting that the fast food is going to come in 2 minutes. One of my favorite places to eat fast food in Colombia is Frisbee's. They got the best chicken. It's awesome, but it's not fast. It's like faster than other things, but it's not fast. And what I see oftentimes, no matter it's a move abroad or even a travel scenario, that you guys don't know where you're going. So the cultural aspect plays such a huge piece into this, because you guys go into other places thinking that your attitudes, the way you carry yourself, what you're not going to tolerate, all of those things cater to the rest of the world. And one of the biggest things I learned was, I'm not really one of these kind of people. It's got to be like an extreme scenario, but people that, have short tempers and start the yelling and arguing with people. What people that don't speak a language and think yelling in English is translation. These things, one, aren't appreciated anywhere, but two, position you in a way where you may have a bad time because you don't know where you are based off of the local culture and customs. Yelling and screaming that maybe get you somewhere. You guys in the United States are used to the customer is always right. I want to speak to the manager. uh, Man, I don't know if you're ready to come to outside abroad. If you think that I'm going to speak to the manager, that like that Karen stuff, it's not going to go far abroad. Seriously, people just don't have the time for it. People are going to look at you like you're crazy. Now, you also don't know who is who abroad. You don't know who you're talking to. Just because they a little person or a big person, just because they look meek, that don't mean anything about them. So the cultural shock of having what you should have in general, which is expectations of understanding that you got to realize that you are a baby into this. You're brand new. We're talking about culture shock abroad, Maria, and what Americans have to go through when initially moving abroad. It's bad enough when people are finally getting off the resort and starting to travel, but you got more people that are starting to move abroad, and they do not know that they're going into another culture that is not going to be America waiting for them. My job here tonight with this culture conversation is to hopefully educate people enough so that we can stop seeing some of this nonsense that we're seeing on the internet. Understanding that just because someone told you it's a third world country doesn't mean that it's true. Yes, we are starting to see the people that are leaving, but it has been long enough. I've been going 3 years, and this was before Donald Trump 2.0. And I'm starting to see people come back because they ran out of money, because they didn't have a good time abroad. And so many people, if you got into the nuances and nitty gritty of their move abroad process, how they went about it, what they did when they got over there, you find gaping holes. So thanks for asking, Maria, what we were talking about. But this is an education series. So I'm teaching you how to get the hell out of America if it's on your head. If it's you're not looking to move, this might not be for you. But if it is, or if you know somebody, please go ahead and share that, because we will definitely get into what America has not educated us about. I would tell every American that is considering to move abroad to take the words third world country and throw them out. Culture shock comes in two different ways. Yes, things are going to be different, but the in a I won't say negative way, but it may be a little challenging at first. But the positives, you'd be surprised how different your life could be with the culture shock that you could get sick and afford to get better. The culture shock that you don't have to leave your house to go to a doctor because the doctor is going to come in your house. These are positive culture shocks, but a lot of these people are that are moving abroad are getting hung up on the negative culture shocks. Well, I expect things done at a timely place. I saw something today. This not today. It was a woman that was saying. She was saying why I moved out of Mexico and why I will never move back to Mexico. Now I listened to it. I watched it. It was on YouTube, and I said, "This is an interesting thing. I want to hear what she has to say." So some of the reasons why she moved, I could see how it could be challenging for people, for certain. Other reasons, I mean, I guess. I know one of the reasons I saw, and this is something that you are going to have to realize that they're a different culture. If you grew up in New York, you grew up in Philadelphia around multiple cultures, you might be used to what I'm about to say. But if you didn't, you might not be used to this. Latam is loud. So you could be working, you're a digital nomad, you work from home, and you are sitting there and you're on a work call. And then all of a sudden you hear, you're like, what is that? And your coworkers go, what is that? And then there's a man walking down the streets going, "Abakate!" And it's like, is that going to happen every day? Yes, it's going to happen. He comes around every day, 11 a.m. That's his job. Other things will happen. When I first moved to Colombia, um, this guy had a bar, but the bar was never open, even though it said 24 hours. It was only open from like 10 to 3. And it was just him, his brother, I think his sister was in there, or his wife, and maybe a couple of people would come in. But every night, he would be turned up to about 1 o'clock in the morning. I moved for certain. But you think that you're going to take the cultural norms of whatever peace and quiet that you've carved out for you and just say, well, you guys are too loud. I'm going to call the cops. Or why are you guys so loud? We're seeing that now in the United States, in New Orleans. People that aren't from New Orleans don't understand the culture, saying that New Orleans is too loud for them. These people have been living here prior to you thinking that America was too much and you wanted to leave. But these things are cultural norms that if you aren't prepared for where you're going, they're going to ruffle your feathers all the time. Why is everybody expecting me to say all of this? In Colombia, you have to go through a full, like I said, a full greeting. And then some things are just super flowery with the word, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I bless you and your mother and your kids and everyone that you have afterwards for this because you have saved me and my, like, these things are long. And you need to be able to respect that somebody is willing to take time with you to appreciate you. Oftentimes, because America doesn't give us the grace of being humans, we don't even allow ourselves to be in commune with each other. When's the last time somebody like legitimately thanked you for something that helped them? Like, thanks, bro, appreciate it. And they're like, no, I want you to appreciate this. And then they will go in Spanish and tell you to the full intent. You could be rude and cut them off. You could do a lot of things. Even something like the culture shock of standing in line in Latam. The culture shock of standing in line. When you go to a store like a Walmart, most places, Colombia don't have Walmart, but you go to a store, Dollar Tree, whatever the case is. In America, you usually get your square at least. Usually you can go like, I can put my hand up and pen back. Nobody gonna be like on top of me. I know in Colombia, people will be almost standing on top of you, but everybody's standing on top of each other. It's not you they want to stand next to. It's just how people stand. But if you come into Colombia not understanding that the culture is this way, you're going to be like, why are you standing so close to me? And people will look at you like you were absolutely lost your mind. I've seen it. But because people and Americans specifically are looking to insert themselves into places that they don't know, actually haven't done the research, and it's hard to put in where you don't have an understanding. Doing the research on Colombia. Well, did you know that they were going to stand close to you and align? How did you go? How can you research that? How can you put that in? So it's just like we as people, fellow creators, if you happen to be looking at this, we need to give more education on these things because yes, you can get a better price place in the United States. Yes, you can eat better food. Yes, these are the ways not to get scammed. Yes, yes to all the things. But it's like, well, when they get there, we don't, I don't know you, but I don't want you to go back if you don't want to. But you will go back if you don't go prepared. So I'm doing my best to try to give you guys some of the things that you're going to run into, the good and the bad. That way you can prepare, because you guys may think, oh, well, once I leave, once I get on the other side, everything is going to be gravy. Man, I see people over in Colombia. I see them in Mexico. They're having a good time. They're at the beach. They're at this. And it's like, some people won't tell you the truth. Some people will not. So many things get put onto the internet, and it's like, well, what stuff is true and what stuff isn't? It's very hard to figure that out these days. What is true and what isn't, and sifting through that can be rather difficult depending on the type of person you are. Especially because there's so many experts coming on. I've seen the amount of more master classes, and ain't nobody got close to 10,000 hours worth of anything. Yet here we are. So I tell you guys, one, take heed to where you go. Like, be leery about where you're getting your information from. That's the first thing. But second thing, make certain that you are doing actual research, not just the fluff stuff. Yes, you need somewhere to live, but what do people do? What do people do on a Sunday? Why is everything closed? Well, it's Sunday. In Colombia, there's 18 federal holidays. You can be like, where's everybody at? Oh, it's a holiday. Was this a holiday last week? Well, it's a holiday this week too. And you can't expect places to be open, people to be moving fast. And you want to get things done, 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 because that's what America told you. Everything needs to be done, like, expeditiously. But what if you didn't have to do that? What if you didn't have to work on America's time schedule? Your life, your job, whatever the case is. These things are relevant to understanding that, yes, you are going to be shocked. It is a new culture. It's going to be things that you love. Like I said, you're only going to take what you have and you've seen about Colombia. You're going to take what you heard about Colombia. And then when you get there, you're going to be like, okay, so they never told me any of these things. Because they're not talking to you about the culture shock, the fact that somebody's going to stand in the line close to you, the fact that, yes, as a black person, they may think automatically that you are Afro-Colombian, because you know why? There's so many people in Colombia that look just like me. But then you're going to get treated a different way once they realize you're an American. How does that feel? I told y'all that's one of the biggest things for the culture shock for me, because it was the first time I got treated like an American. And I was like, wait, so y'all thought I was a black person, and that's why y'all were following me around. But then y'all realized I was American, and then you're like, well, whatever you need. What the hell is up with that? Oh, also, you might have caught something. You guys think that, racism is something that you're going to just deal with in the United States. Let me tell you something. I think a lot of Americans don't know this because the education system doesn't give it to you the way that it should have been given to you. But every black American that is from, like, enslaved people, at least, that were brought from America, they were the last of the people. The first start of all of the enslavements and everything, that was Brazil, Colombia, the Caribbean. Black Americans that are part of slavery were actually the last to be. So you guys have this limited view and of who is black and what is black, and not realizing that we just the last of the people that were brought over here. Cartagena is a big place that a lot of people see and say, "Oh, I want to go to Cartagena," and I'm like, "Do you know where you're going?" It's one of the oldest slave ports. It's one of the most active ones because of proximity to the Caribbean Sea. Most people don't know that Colombia has the Pacific, and it also has the Caribbean Sea. So there, that Caribbean Sea will take you into places. And you can see how the diaspora from Colombia went, because there is a place called Providenciales and San Andres. These are Colombian owned islands closer to Nicaragua than they are to mainland Colombia. But they have people there that they took from Jamaica to Colombia, those islands, to help build up the place and work for them. But there is the only place in Colombia where you're going to see an abundance, but there are people there that speak English Creole, which is similar to Jamaican patois. You go there, they say Rastafari, one love. They are the only other Caribbean island that does Rondon in the same fashion that Jamaica does. These are things where the culture shock is going to shock you. Seeing that there's other people there, that you being maybe marginalized in the United States is just not because the US had slavery and that's just the US way. Like there's so many similarities that we see within and this because now it comes depends where you go. Because you may go to other places. You go to Argentina, you're not going to be able to see some of the things that I'm describing in Colombia. I saw a woman online earlier today, and she said that she had just taken some people over Juneteenth to the one place in Mexico where they celebrate Juneteenth. And I said, man, that's dope. I wonder what that experience was like. And it's just like the diaspora of Africans is actually out here. So the culture shock of realizing that there are people that, yes, they speak a different language. It may be Spanish, it may be Portuguese, it may be French, but they are a part of the same ilk and the same people that we are all a part of. Seeing that culture shock. When I first time I ever went to Colombia, it was the biggest culture shock for me. And I tell you this, and I hope somebody get to experience it the way I did because it was the first time when I went in Colombia, Cartagena in 2017. There wasn't a lot of Americans going, and I remember not knowing what he said, so I had to ask the person I was with. But I did hear color, and he came up to me and he pointed to his skin and he said, "Tu eres mi color, tu eres mi color," and I'm like, color, my color. And I'm like, what is he talking about? And it's like, he's saying that he's happy because you're black and you're an American and I can see you. And it's like, we are the same color. We're from the same people. And I was like, that's peculiar because I've never had anyone come up to me like that ever. That was a cultural shock for me that happened. And it was just like, is this what, how black people treat you outside of the United States? Because from what I'm getting hearing from the inside, I'm not getting that, and you guys aren't getting that. And you get, well, these people don't like you because of this, or they think these are you are this because of this, and that may be true, and a lot of that lives on the internet between thumbs and phones. However, a lot of the experiences I have had, a lot of experiences I have seen others have, this cultural aspect, especially those that look like me, you get to experience something where you can get to put that stuff on the internet to bed. You get to invite it into people's houses. You get to see that they're doing the exact same things as us. When you go over abroad and I go to Colombia and I see people my age playing bingo, bingo, like what the old people play. Imagine playing bingo with the same energy and intensity that you play spades with. That's what they play. And they play dominoes and they will slam your ass right on the table just like anybody else and anywhere in America. So we're sitting here with this cultural thing, and it's a shock because so many of us and so many of you guys have not been exposed to it prior to moving abroad. We go abroad and we go to vacation spots that are canned experiences, hotels, resorts, and it's oftentimes our first move abroad may be our first real test or real walk into what community could look like abroad. So we're there doing our best to say, yeah, you're going to be shocked. Some ways are going to be good. Some ways are going to be challenging. Some things you're going to have to get used to. You're going to have to get used to the man walking down the street advertising avocados. He got to make money. When I was in Colombia, you'd be in your house at your test working, and you'd hear somebody go, like, I know I'm on the fourth floor. Why did I hear somebody like that, like on my level? And you look over the balcony, and the dude's got his little karaoke machine, and he is about to start performing. It's 1 in the afternoon, sir. We're working. Colombia. And the craziest part is you think that, people are going to say, be quiet and clearing it down. Like, no. In Colombia, depending on how tall the place is, but you're on the fourth, fifth floor, you have a basket and a rope. And you could drop it down and people can get anything out of it that they may need or put anything in it that you may need. So that way you don't have to go down and get the delivery. So people would be dropping down their money, putting it into the basket, and my man would do a little 7 minute set and roll out. And that one lady, she said, "Yeah, it's too loud." And I'm like, anybody that grew up in New York around folks that's from like the Caribbean or even in South Florida, it's like it's gonna be some noise around. The culture shock of the police thing is definitely different. That is definitely a different culture shock because coming from the U.S., we deal with police and we see them. Depending on what kind of, some people are pro police, some people are like, police aren't, I'm not pro police, but the police are necessary. Some people are anti police. Um, it's a lot of different ways to fall into policing. I would say, as a person that looks like me, policing growing up in my neighborhood, a lot of the parents were telling their children what to do whenever they would be stopped, even if they weren't of driving age. So that way they could just make it home safely because they were coming from time frames where they, as well as their parents, went through a particular thing that honestly is still going on in 2025. So when I look at the culture shock of going abroad and seeing how police operate, it is different. Now, there's good things and there's bad things. The good things, oftentimes, I don't see police and have the same, at least first thought process that I have. Like, oh crap, like, might not be doing nothing, and they might do something to me. I'm not saying that's all my situations, but I know there's plenty of people that's going to watch it and say, yeah, I've definitely felt like that before. Especially if you're in the South, depending on where you are, getting pulled over in certain neighborhoods, you're like, abroad, it's definitely different. I wouldn't say I have the initial reaction because I often see police and they're just living normal life. I feel like a lot of times back at home, police are policing neighborhoods that they're not even from. When I was a kid, I remember the police athletic league, which was important because it gave you the ability to see police not just at work. They were Coach Steve was playing, helping the basketball team. So and so was doing this, so they humanized them outside of just, and they understood the neighborhood. Whereas now, I feel like a lot of times people are put into neighborhoods that they don't live in and they don't understand, and that's why it's such a divide. Going abroad, when I see cops, I often don't have that initial like, oh man, here they come. However, there is some differences that I would be like remiss not to tell you. Like, um, if you get into some trouble, like let's say, I don't know, plant-friendly things are illegal in California, legal in Vegas, all these kind of places. And they're legal in some senses in some places elsewhere, but oftentimes, one, most people don't think you know the law. Two, it may not be legal to have it outside. It's a lot of nuances that a lot of people don't know about. Um, Something like that, you can get a fine, or you could just be like, hey, no, here's 100,000 pesos, which is like 30 bucks or something like that. You know, I don't want any trouble, and you can get away. Now, that's not a green light to act ridiculous. It's just things are a little bit more flexible where most of the time people aren't willing to go do paperwork. However, I have seen that work in the negative factor where people, because of them assuming that you have money, and I tell people in America, we're used to wearing our bank accounts on our body. So when it comes to dealing with police abroad, if you look like money, they may talk to you. Even if you don't have anything of contraband on you, they may just give you a hard time looking for anything that they can to be like, well, we could take you to jail, or you can give us a couple dollars and forget all about this. That definitely can happen. And that's why I tell people and trying to prepare them because I don't control police on the United States side. I don't control police on the other side. But I do have to prepare you because police are everywhere. Danger is everywhere. Danger looks different, depends on where you go. Things are always going to be a contrast of where you happen to be. Yet we don't may not think of these things when we deal with police in one way. We have to put on certain things that, like when I go back to Florida, I have to do certain things that I don't do when I'm in Colombia or in Mexico or abroad. I'm wearing all black, even though I'm not doing anything. I'm dressing all black, but that's just where my airport outfit is. I need to look somewhere like I'm visible because I don't want anybody calling the cops and then they're like some random guy, 6 foot something, walking around with all black. That's what I do in the United States. That's not often happening abroad. Yet I'm not often, if I got in trouble or a speeding ticket, say, hey, cop, let me give you $20. Like that can work in the good way and the bad way. But it's often come down to where it is. So it's like, how do the police operate? That's something that you can add to your research tools. But where are you gonna get that information from except somebody that actually lives there, has gone, how to understand how to insulate yourself from certain things. These things are important to understand that that could be the culture there. American cop culture is American cop culture. Colombian cop culture is Colombian cop culture. Mexican cop culture is Mexican cop culture. There could be a number of things. I've seen a number of things on the internet, depending on where you're going, what you're doing. Oftentimes, because of the internet, United States people think that they are able to document everything. Steve Jobs gave you a phone and you said, let me go document everything. All I need is my trusty iPhone. That may work, but you also run into the scenario that you are documenting people's lives, that these people are not on vacation. These people live their life. You think that people want a phone in their house? I get so many people that come to Colombia and say, take me to the hood. And I'm like, why would you want to go to the hood? Well, I'm from the hood. I want to see what the hood looks like. Listen, if you think where you from is the hood here will chew you up and spit you out. There is no reason to go there, yet so many people are thinking these things and then having a cultural shock moment when they get abroad and they're like, well, whoa, now I'm in a bad shape, or I'm in trouble because I didn't understand the culture of what goes on in this society before I get there. Even understanding the culture shock of how you are administered healthcare. It's a huge one. You guys already know. I saw today. Insurance premiums are increasing by 15 or 8 to 18%. How are they going to get any more money out of people that are already telling y'all that we don't have enough to just live? Now I'm going to have to die because I can't get I can't afford to get sick because I can't afford to get better. I just get sick and then I'm just sick. You're going to increase the everything that everything costs. So we're looking at people that are now getting sick, and it's so funny because I fight this word all the time from Americans' mouths of third world country. Yet the number of Americans that are smart enough, as well as at their last resort, that are leaving the United States to go to said third world countries because the medical costs pale in comparison. It's cheaper to buy a flight, stay for a couple of days, and get the procedure than it is just to go down the street to your local doctor with the insurance that you have. Going into a hospital, you got to go to urgent care. You got to go there, spend 20, 30 minutes waiting for your doctor to see you. The nurse comes and asks you whatever it is that they ask you. You may spend 7 minutes with them. You get 3 to 5 minutes with the doctor whenever they do come in. They write you a prescription for whatever it is, and then you got to go get it filled at Walgreens, and then you've got to wait, as well as you're probably paying $20 to $30 for the prescription, and depends on what it is. It could be a lot higher than that, and that is with insurance. However, many times abroad, what I have experienced is that you can message a doctor, like message them on WhatsApp, tell them what your problems are. They'll say, okay, where are you located? And then you ask how much for the visit. They tell you my visit was about $40, and they came to my house. He said, I'll be there within the hour. And then 10 minutes later, he contacted me and said, I believe I am outside. And not everybody, but the people I work with, they speak English. And I was able to tell them what was going on. They spent about 40 minutes to an hour. I've gone to them multiple times, 40 minutes to an hour with me each time. I was able to get blood work drawn. I was able to get an IV. If I need to get an x-ray done, I can get that. They're able to write prescriptions in-house. I'm able to take that prescription, go onto a delivery service, and have that prescription filled and delivered without having to leave the house for $40 with your insurance. Urgent care costs what, $60 for the copay, plus whatever the cost of the medicine is, plus the 3 hours that you have to not be working and or not be trying to get better, but you have to spend 3 hours in some room with a bunch of other sick people. So that is going to be one of the shocks, that it doesn't matter where you go, it's just automatically going to be better. That's the one best thing, unless you're going to, like, I don't know, Yemen or something. But most of you guys aren't looking to go there. Mexico, Colombia, Panama. Um, these things are at the top priority list of where people are going, and not realizing that many things that you may be nervous about are actually in your favor once you get out of the United States. You guys also have to realize that the food thing is going to be such a big culture shock to you, because you're going to start spending money, right? And you're going to start seeing how much things cost for normal things that you would do. Like, all right, I need to go shopping for the week, and I don't know. Like I said, I lived in Colombia, so I always mention Colombia because that's where I've lived for so long. But anywhere you go, and you're going to be like, all right, well, I was spending 100, $125 a week on, my basic items that I need. Then you go and you go to a grocery store and you realize that that 125 bag is now $15 or maybe $20. But now you're not spending $100 per bag. And then you eat the food, right? And then you're eating it. You're tasting the vegetables, you're tasting the fruit. And you're like, why does this fruit just taste so fresh? And then you're seeing things. You're like, I'm used to buying a loaf of bread and it lasting me about, 8 days, 10 days. And you go get your loaf of bread in Colombia, and it's like, you need to go in Colombia. It's like you go to the grocery store almost every day, if not every other day. You don't go to the grocery store like, oh, I'm going to buy food on Sunday for the entire week because it's going to last all the way from Sunday all the way till the end of the week. Because the food in America has so many preservatives and things of that nature. Yes, it will last you all that time. Whereas in Colombia, it's like, you need to get that today. You cooking today, you can either get it today. Vegetables, get them today. You're going to eat them today, or by tomorrow at the very latest. All of these 1 week, 2 week, full month shelf lives, that is a shock that you're going to be like, what have I been eating? If the bread don't last this long, what have I been eating? Yeah, and then you wonder why so many people are moving abroad and they're telling you about the food quality and how they're, certain things, and they're, depends on what ailments you have, certain things are now better for you. You don't have these ailments anymore. Go ask your person that is not from America how many people they know that are gluten free. Just go ask. If you know somebody that lives out abroad, not even a person like me, a person that they've never lived in the United States, ask them how many people have a gluten free allergy. Me with my little peanut allergy, they're like, allergic to my knee? Why are you allergic to peanuts? Like, you know how many people in America are allergic to peanuts? People have in America, they got a gluten-free menu. If you want come to what you call them and say, can I get a gluten-free menu? They might be like, I don't know what you're talking about. But these are things that we've gotten comfortable with. So the cultural shock of these ailments that they prescribe to you as, well, he's gluten free. Like, never mind leaving America. How many people that were born a generation before us were gluten free when they were our age? My mom is almost 60 something years old, late 60s. I guarantee not gluten free now or anything, but I guarantee you, she wouldn't go ask her classmates, that maybe gluten free today, how many of them were gluten free back then, and then how many of our grandparents were gluten free. You'd be like hard pressed to find all these gluten allergies that are now run of the mill, normalized things that America has given you. So the culture shock of what you thought was normal, and you're like, so I can eat bread, and apparently nobody's got the gluten in it or whatever, and the preservatives and the fruits are actually good. The ones that you go to Whole Foods for, they're now at a way lower clip, but Whole Foods is importing them from right in front of your face. The first time I went to the local market and saw the strawberries that you go to Whole Foods and they say imported from Colombia. The strawberries for a pound are like $12. I was outrageous prices for strawberries. I'm like, I can get a kilo. Now they don't sell things in pounds; they sell things in kilos. A kilo is 2.2 pounds. You can get a kilo for like, I'm paying more for food that you have to import that I've got to pay extreme amounts for. And then you may add something on top to it to give it that little extra American twang. Realizing that, how many people have you heard say, I went to Italy or I went abroad and I ate all the pasta, all the breads, all of this and all of that, and I actually lost weight. Whereas if you were to stay in the United States doing that same diet regimen, your ass would be in the hospital, or you'd be the next person on my 600-pound life. So this culture shock thing, yes, there's going to be some things where I need y'all to grasp. So yes, you're not going to get American culture, but I got some good stuff for y'all. I don't just give you BS. I don't just say this is bad or whatever, but I'm like having a good time. Yes, the shock of the culture is going to hit you. It's just a matter of fact. It's about what you do with it. What you do with it. Once you do, what do you do when you wake up and you have a culture shock that you got an American privilege that you never realized that you had, that you were never able to utilize? Do you act like the privileged American? Or do you say, hey, I didn't realize I had this privilege, but here it's blatantly apparent. How do I navigate where I'm at versus leaning into the privilege? That's why we're starting to see so many of these people. And shout out to all the locals that are looking at these chats and looking at these conversations. And hopefully, you guys understand that I'm an American person that left America and doing my best to try to educate my fellow Americans, especially the ones that look just like me, so that we can go if we want to leave and have a successful time abroad versus coming with ill education, thinking that America is waiting for us, having culture shock, and the shock is, you might say that's not happening or that's not going to happen. Well, just go on TikTok, go on Instagram, go on Facebook. These things that go viral, and you say, I can't believe this person is acting like this in this place. These are all things that I'm doing my best because what's happening now is to get educated. I need to find a job. I need to go immediately. And that may be a thought process that they think is going to work. However, with no education, with no understanding of you are going to a new language, a new culture, America is not waiting for you on the other side. That is why you are starting to see people that are local and saying, we don't want y'all to come. You guys are gentrifying. You guys don't know where you're going. So you're paying $1,000 for something not there anymore. 2,000 to one just increased the rent $800. And what the thing is about capitalism, whether it's American or global, culture shock that you're going to the global and being not always arrogant, act entitled as if the world owes them something. Yet so many people from so many different countries aren't given this same first thought process because they're grown up. They have to grow up in a way where there's some understanding. Whereas in so many still work 40 hours a week in a country or a place where you get better food that they will not our country this even. How is it that you could be in the best place in the world at the same time you're looking to leave and also looking to say, I am going to take it with me? Guys need shout out to TikTok and education. It's not on the internet if they tell you the truth. The truth is going to set you free.